All right, we are live, and I'm going to wait just a few minutes or seconds to see if everybody's talking to each other like they're supposed to. Right there we go. It looks like everything's working. All right, just making sure for just a few more seconds. There we go. Everybody's talking to each other. Outstanding. All right, welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Um, Welcome to Rapid Fire. Rapid Fire is the one night of the week where I will field questions as much as possible in the chat. Um, sometimes they're interesting, sometimes they're just funny, sometimes we're just trying to be entertaining. Just for a note, there is a goal in the chat. 5 super chats will get me to wear a hat of your choice, but I have modified a couple of the ones I've already revealed. So, it's I got some headbands and some feathers and stuff like in the mail. I figured it was the easiest way to keep giving a new face to a lot of my hats. And so 2 of them, the black fedora and the black top hat, have both been redecorated. But if you want to see that, we'll need to have the donations. So keep the streams running. So thanks, everybody. But let's before we get into all the questions, let's get into the roll call for this evening and see who's here. And let's see, we have Fred is here. Ashera is here. They were here earlier. Rimmer, good to see you. My favorite Swede. See, I Killed Earl is here, and not even fashionably late. We have some artwork from Earl to look at in a little bit, I think. So, who else have we got? Triple E is here. Cranky Elder God showed up in his good time, as he should. Wolf is here. The Mighty Filbert is here. Oh, Anne is here too. Good to see you, Anne. And Phantom. All right. Phantom's here too. All right. A lot of people here tonight. Good to see all of you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see. I want to make sure I didn't miss any questions. There was some discussion about the differences between, like I asked the question of Fred of what the difference between an outback adventure and a Michigan backwoods adventure is. Probably in theory, not much other than the weather and the climate and the terrain. So, but yeah. So but the thing about where I live in Michigan, it's like a lot of rolling hills and forests and marshes and valleys and stuff like that. It's few little rivers and streams and stuff like that. It's nice. I enjoy being here. So yeah, you can ask any question you want. Okay, I may even answer. Bigfoot sightings? I don't know. I haven't seen any Bigfoot sightings yet. Dave usually does show up from time to time with all the Bigfoot sightings, but I haven't seen any Bigfoot sightings out here yet. But though West Michigan is, I mean, you don't have to drive too long before you'll see a Bigfoot sticker on the end of somebody's car. So I would answer that with see your financial advisor. See, I will answer any question. It just may not be the answer that you want to hear. And I also am very fond of illustrating that if I don't know something, I will tell you I don't know anything. I know that's weird. It's very different when you talk to theists and they always have an answer for everything. But yeah, I will. So yeah. Yeah, I'm south of Luther about, I want to say about 6 miles, 7 miles. You've probably driven through Reed City, so to get to Luther. So Manistee Forest is out that way. Yeah, everybody has this image of Michigan, of Detroit, and Detroit's only a small part of Michigan when you really think the big things. I don't know. you cause pain to people. I don't know. I think the thing about it is right now everybody's on edge. I noticed this at work too, Earl. Like everybody's kind of edgy these days, and I don't know why. It's summertime. Um, South of Luther sounds like Canada. Yeah, Luther's a small little village north of where I live, so it's not very far away. So, and Anne Marie is very familiar with the area I live, so she knows what I'm talking about. So, because she lives in Michigan too. So, but yeah, I don't know what's going on, but everybody is on edge. I know it's summertime, and summertime tends to the heat and everything tends to bring out the worst in people as it gets warmer. But a lot of people are on edge about everything going on in my country. So it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of people that are like that way. Let's see. Why are theists afraid to admit that they believe their reality too? Kind of interesting question. I mean, it. I don't know if you typoed that or not. I don't believe in my reality. I demonstrate my reality. Seeing that's the difference. Your belief involves accepting something without evidence, and I don't do that anymore. It's not that I'm afraid to admit it. I just don't think atheists look at reality the same way that theists do. Theists have made up mythical stuff as part of their reality, and I don't. So, yeah, I kind of figured. But yeah, I don't. It's not a question of being afraid. It's a question of, is that reality to us? No, I don't believe in science so much as I know its evidential qualities make it a much more secure form of. You can believe in anything. I'm about to demonstrate that. So, but yeah, I don't put a lot of stock in belief anymore. So, as somebody who used to be a theist. So, is there a difference between dentistry and proctology? Probably. How did the idea of Satan move from the avatar to what Christians think of him now? I think there's a lot of theology behind that. Triple E. Satan, if you just take the book of Job, which is supposedly the oldest text of the Old Testament that we have, Satan is just one of the sons of God, which brings up a whole packle of theological questions. And he's just the guy that comes in and is just the adversary. If you watched, what was it? Satan's View of the Bible or something where he does a Sunday school thing. It was pretty spot on what Satan actually is from a biblical point of view. There's also like they bring in things like, the son of the morning and all this other stuff. So I don't have a good answer other than people have Christianity has developed this deeper and deeper view of Satan. And a lot of it has to do with like canonization of scripture. Like the book of Revelation pictures Satan not just as an adversary, but the enemy of mankind. And so you have a later theological development of it. And so I was always puzzled by this too. Like one of the developments that the serpent is Satan. That's not stated in the Bible. And doesn't seem to be reality. So, well, but that's kind of the problem with theological development is people change things to suit their purpose. I think Satan becoming more and more of a bad, evil person is an attempt to get God off the hook for his world that he has created. We can just blame the devil. Okay, the devil made me do it. The devil. So there's that. But they both deal in assholes. Okay. All right. Hey, cool guy. Hey, Michael. Good to see you. You wish to verify. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is pretty up here. So if you've been up in the Grand Rapids area, I'm north of that, about an hour drive. So is ice wrecking your hometown? Yeah, I could see where that would be a problem, Ashera. Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, I don't think atheism is a worldview. I think you have to add, if you want the worldview that's actually probably more accurate, it's secularism. And there are Christians that have a secular worldview. So atheism just deals with the proposition of whether there's a God or not, but it's not a worldview. But as far as good evidence, something that is testable, repeatable, can be verified by others. There's a whole bunches of standards of evidence that you could learn about, like what constitutes good evidence in court. I would say there's also good evidence to me. And so, you know, evidential standards are already out there as defined by human beings, and we're constantly improving them and modifying them. So, but good evidence, I don't necessarily define that myself as, but I've always said that if you can give me historical evidence that something in, say, the Gospels is true, I would look at it. Um, but most of the historians that do like New Testament work aren't very good historians. They accept a lot of things that can't be verified. But you've got something testable, repeatable. Can I pick it up, give it to another group of scientists on the other side of the world, and they get the same results? There you go. But testimonial evidence is the weakest kind of evidence, and it often has to be backed up by other evidence in order to get through a court of law because of those weaknesses. So, hey, Bridge. Hey, Jay, how you doing? Yeah, seeing JL's here. Do you want? I think I'm going to interrupt the normal course of events to reveal a piece of artwork by Earl. And I don't know, JL, if you'll appreciate this or not. Um, so there's that aspect of it. But I received this little piece of artwork while I was working last night from the lovely Earl, and I want to present it to everybody. I don't know, it's Pride Month, so there's a lot of Pride Month themes on this. So there we go. But here we go. So there you go. Oh, yes. Yeah, I was just up with Satan pissed in his garden. That's probably true. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I Job showed E how a gambling issue. Okay, it's fair. Uh, let's see. Not about evidence per se. It's about a method that can differentiate real things from non-real things. Right now, there's no method that can do that for the supernatural. Correct. Yeah, I had to chuckle at this one. Uh, the whole whale citizenship is going to be something around forever, and Earl captured this really, really well. So, but yes, so there's that. Uh, yeah, falsifiability is another thing when it comes to evidence. Can you falsify your claim? Because if you can set the criteria for falsehood and it can't be falsified, then you have better evidence. A lot of claims by religious people can't be falsified, so they're actually weaker claims. So, hey, Alex, there you go. There you go. It's for gay whales. Oh, Michael. Hey, Martin. Good to see you, man. Hey, Miss Ahmad. Good to see you. Yeah, it does look a little South Park-ish, but I kind of like that. That's okay. Yeah, speak of the devil. Hey, so good to see you. Oh man, Terror of the Penguins. Chat never fails me. You guys never fail me. But yeah, I love this piece. There's so much into it. No, it's not about belief, dude. It's about being able to reproduce something. Can you reproduce a miracle so in such a way that it can be examined and tested? No, it's an unfalsifiable claim, and thus it's weaker. Evidence has standards, okay, that are beyond belief. Okay, sorry, that's an incorrect statement. Um, I would not. No, evidence has a lot of things going for it that belief does not. So, yes, the evidence for Jesus is lacking, for instance, um, and even apologists. If I can reproduce it, test it, do something with it, where I can do more than just look at it and make a claim about it, yes, but you don't have that with any religious claim. So, like, if you claim the resurrection of Jesus Christ, how do I test that? How do I falsify that? Well, so there's that. No, it's not a belief. Sorry, I trust it because it works, because it's adjudicated by predictive power. If I can use evidence to predict what an outcome will be, and bam, there it happens, that's not a belief. That's testing with verification. Those are beliefs. A belief is simply believing in something without evidence. You trust it without evidence. The very nature of belief is to simply take something on faith. Okay, which so, but yes, probably, but yeah. Let's see. Christianity is a story I built my life around. I don't have any grand narrative anymore. What are some alternatives or values I can consider? I would say, despite Christian and theist proofs denials, there are plenty of secular ethic and moral systems out there um, that don't have anything to do with a god. The only thing that really is weird is like getting rid of the idea of a higher power, other than the fellow humans around you and things like that. But secularism has its own ethics and morals about equality and so on and so forth. So there's that, and all the rest of it. So, but yes, but yeah, I did my own exploration after I left the faith, and I was already kind of a stoic anyway, and I ended up staying with it because it works for me. But I also added a bunch of virtues beyond the stoic virtues because I felt stoicism is a little weak when it comes to interpersonal relationships. So that's kind of where I went. So, hey, Martin, thank you very much, Martin. That's 4 to go. Who's leading right now? The black fedora with the new band and feather. Yes, it's over here. So, hey, John, good to see you. Yeah, I kind of like the little fin hat there too, Earl. I really do. And the bow gives a nice touch. It just makes Fang so adorable. Well, I don't know, because I have to wear the holy bunny hat to speak authoritative for the Fangs cult, so I have to wear that one. The top hat is kind of. I'm actually have a more of an affinity for top hats, so that's kind of my stuff. Um, And then, I'm a good patriotic American. That's always good for a laugh too. So I'm very much, when it comes to what hat I wear, I'm very much in the hands of my fans and the people that come to chat. So yeah, he has impressive hair. Yes. Yeah, but yeah, you got. I love Fangs in this one because he's doing his typical Fang stuff, and he's trying to identify with the whales and all that stuff. I'm fairly certain, that I haven't really talked about Fangs's gender and sexual orientation that much because the standard dogma doctrine about Fangs is in those areas is that he prefers you to identify him or her or whatever based on what you are. That way, you develop a much closer attachment to Fangs if you identify Fangs as you are and then speak to him that way. I think that's just good dogma. So, me being my heterosexual self with poly tendencies, I kind of go at it that way. So, but yeah. Yeah, a lot of people debunked a lot of people in their mind. No. Um, are we talking libertarian free will, like you have absolute choice over everything? Because I didn't believe in that as a Christian, and as an open theist theologian at the end, I didn't believe in libertarian free will because there's too many things that channel our choices and our preferences tend to take over. And but true genuine libertarian free will, do you have choices about things? Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm a soft determinist, not a hard one, but this this problem isn't a problem just for, I know where you're kind of going, where you're going to say atheists have to be these hard determinists. I hate to break the news to you, but you have people in your own camp as Christians that are also hard determinists. Okay, this is one aspect of theology I get tired of because Christians aren't the only ones that believe in free will, and there are also atheists there are hard determinists among atheists, but they're not the only ones that are hard determinists. You have Calvinists too that are hard determinists. So this isn't a Christian versus atheist thing. Okay, so it's a worldview issue. Accepting something is true without evidence is faith. Accepting something is true because I'm sorry, I don't think that's an equivalent idea. Okay, you're trying to make what you're doing is what a lot of people try to do with atheists all the time is that we're the same as you, but that kind of undercuts your own position because if we are just the same as you, then we have that weakness. Well, then don't you also have that weakness? It's really, to be honest, a really crappy argument, to be honest. Um, so, I mean, I've never found this when I was a Christian to be a very good argument form because you're basically, I'm sorry, when I was a Christian, I accepted that scientific evidence gave a harder edge, so to speak, than any kind of basic belief system. Uh, I don't think humans just believe. There's other things that they do. They trust something because it has predictive power. They trust things because there's data that backs it up. We study something, we look at something very closely, and that's the. I'm sorry. That's just it. There's a very great deal of difference in those two things. Okay, so no, I don't think that that's belief. To me, belief is a little bit weaker. Okay, I don't, for instance, believe in evolution. I know evolution is true. There's a big difference. Okay, because of the evidence and the preponderance of evidence that backs up that idea. Okay, you can say everybody has ideas, but whether they're beliefs backed up with very little evidence or there's something that we trust and rely on is a different, because of the evidence, is two different things. So I know you're trying to equate atheist quote unquote beliefs with yours, but that's just, it's not the same. Yeah, I don't know if we're always morally responsible for our actions or held morally responsible for our actions. That isn't always a. I don't. I don't have a problem. Like, okay, let's take the case in Texas where they want to add the Bible to the curriculum. That would be fine if they were also adding all the other religious texts. And why would I say that has value? It is an undeniable fact that the Bible, the Quran, uh, the various Hindu scriptures have had an effect on human societies, and the religions associated with them have. It's a sociological thing that I think is worth studying to know what the effects are. Um, for me, I have all this Bible knowledge from all my days as a pastor and having degrees in this stuff, and so I definitely want to uh, deal with that aspect. But and so I can't deny that religion and these books have an effect and have had an effect on society historically. So yes, I think they're worth studying, but I'd put them in the same all in the same category of as studying mythology in many cases. So uh, yes, I think the actor is still responsible for the act, even if it's predetermined. But I'm the reason I'm a soft determinist is I'm not really sure that hard determinism has been proven. So it's like it's you can say the theory, well, if we knew every scientific aspect of it, we could predict everything. I suppose that's on the surface that seems true, but they have you know, there is some variance in things that we don't know yet. So I'm not sure we can do that yet. I'll change my view if somebody demonstrates to me that we could definitely predict everything. Yeah, as you're trying it, evidence and belief are not the same. Evidential trust is a very different thing than blind belief. Those are two very different things. All Christians are determinists and they come apart, they can't square. Then free will shows its ugly face. Yes, that becomes a. Well, at least try to believe things that are true. I don't know if the word believe. See, I as an atheist, I have a large trouble with the idea of belief and faith because I don't consider faith a virtue anymore. I think it's a vice. When you act on stuff that you can't prove and cause harm to others, and so doing it, I think that's you got to have more than just that. So you like the nonsensical, okay? Really? Faith ran off with hope and grace. All right, I can buy that. Yeah, there's some truth to this, is studying the historical interpretations of the Bible. But if you know the Bible, then you can kind of figure out where they got that from. Um, but yeah, there's a reason why there's many theologies and many sects within Christianity. So there's that. So and studying the effects of that, because nobody can deny, like, the Reformation under Martin Luther didn't have a political and sociological effect across Europe. And you would have to, if you wanted to deep dive that, you're going to have to look at what Martin Luther's views of the Bible were, moving from church tradition and scripture to sola scriptura, for instance, is something that changed a lot of things. So there's that. Um, yeah, I don't think, yeah, I think the problem is the definition of belief and faith gets convoluted with evidential trust. I'm kind of one of those guys that doesn't buy a lot of that stuff. So there's that. Thank you, Cranky. Appreciate you. That's 2, 3 to go. So there's that. So far, the Black Fedora with the new band and feather is doing that. I reject them because I don't grant a free will giver, but neither am I determinist because just theism wraps them. Yeah, and Earl, I actually that's a profound statement to me because it's kind of the way I see it. To me, the whole determinist angle where it's a more hard determinist. I do acknowledge there's a lot of things outside my control. Okay, and that's where the stoicism comes in, where I focus on things that are actually within my control instead of stuff that I can't control. So that's but what you say, there's kind of, I don't grant that there's a God that gives free will, so that kind of free will I would reject. You got to kind of prove there's a God that gives free will before we can even have a discussion on whether free will exists. And it seems like a cheap out for most theologies, in my opinion. Or we could say, as Christopher Hitchens did, I really don't have a choice to believe it, do I? So yeah, it is a kind of a theological get out of jail free card when it comes to the problem of evil. So like, well, that's caused by humans. So I'm I I've left Earl's artwork up because I want everybody to enjoy it. There's a lot of funny stuff in that, so just keep looking at it. You'll find one. Yeah, and the weird conspiracy theories tends to go hand in hand with religious belief. When you accept just believing something because somebody told you so, conspiracy theories become much easier. If you believe in authoritarian ethics from a divine authority giver, you tend to accept authority figures in politics a lot easier. Um, and that's never a good thing, in my opinion, but that's my opinion. Given the identical circumstances in the initial states, we will choose the same every time. And what does it say if we don't? That's the issue, because a lot of psychology that I've read about this issue of decisions is we often make decisions based on our already preferences that we've decided beforehand, but there's still a decision process about those preferences beforehand. So that when we get to those moments, we often don't make a different decision. Okay, like I guess an argument can be made, like if you're going to an ice cream counter and you have a preference for both, say, mint chocolate chip and chocolate, you might, which one do I prefer at that moment? That might be an argument, but you're going to pick one of those two because the rest of them just aren't on your radar. When I was an open theist, I argued that, you know, we have a tendency to follow patterns and habits and stuff like that. And also, there are certain choices that are beyond us. You can't just leap off the earth, so to speak. You can't do it like Superman. That choice is simply not available to you. So the limitation is of the amount of choices that we actually had is actually quite limiting. So I don't know about that. I guess I like to work with different terminology, Phantom, because theists like to use that word belief and then start to equate me with having belief, and they do like this false equivalency between belief and faith, like they're the same thing. And so when I get into arguments with them, I don't like to use the word belief any more than I like to use the word faith at that point. So I get what you're saying, but whenever I'm talking to a theist, they like to equate those two things, and it becomes a problem. based on previous experience. That's what's gone before. Yeah, there's a lot of work in that regard too. So, well, I'm not denying that I don't have beliefs. I just don't like using the term because it tends to be equivocated with faith, and that's not the same. Water, liquid, that doesn't mean we should drink all liquids. Yes. Bible is in this world to bring misunderstanding to be claimed as truth. No need to be a scientist or understand its misunderstandings. Yes. Could be a deterministic universe to be perceived that we have free will. That's another one. No, it doesn't deal with absolute truths, but faith type beliefs don't deal with truth at all. They're asking you to trust something without any kind of evidence. There's a great deal of epistemological difference between a scientifically proven point of data reference and somebody just saying God is real. Those are two very different claims. Okay. If a claim can be backed up by data and evidence, it has a far stronger position than something that can't be falsified. And most religious faith beliefs are in that category of can't be falsified. And so they are weaker. Yeah, they're not that. I'm guessing you're Christian based on a few seconds. I have a question on how come I am forced to have free will against my will. I can't say, God, I wish to sin no more. Please get rid of the free will. I don't know. My old Christianity, I'm not a Christian anymore. I'm an atheist. So my issue with the way I was raised up is I did study every viewpoint when I was working on my master's degree in theology at Asbury. So that master's degree caused me to deep dive a lot of different theologies on Christianity and free will. And so I've looked at all of them. But yes, there is some people that have, prayed that, like, I don't want to sin anymore, so take away the free will so I can't. But then there would be other people that would argue, well, then you can't really love or anything then because there's no choices about it. And yeah, it's like, there's just something that doesn't jive with me with all the theologies now. So to me, God is this unproven thing. So, and until it's proven, I guess I can go my merry way without believing it anymore. Yes, there's a lot of Easter eggs in this art, quite frankly. And given Fangs is a rabbit deity, that's perfectly acceptable. I do, and it's Ronald. It's mostly from arguing with theists because they want to equivocate my trust of science with their belief in God, and those are two very different forms of knowledge. Okay, like when you sit there and say I believe in science, I don't really believe in it. I see evidence. I see how it gets its data. I see how it gathers its evidence. And then I also see that it has predictive results that are repeatable and testable. And I can pick up the same scientific experiment, move it halfway around the world, drop it into another group of scientists, and they will get the same results. That is very, very unlike beliefs in gods and things like that. There's a multitude of religions that all have very different viewpoints, and none of them are proven. None of them are testable. They're all unfalsifiable. Falsifiability gives your hypothesis weight if you can't meet that falsifiability. Okay, like if you create a standard of falsifiability for a claim and no matter what you do, you can't reach it, that gives that claim a lot more weight. Okay, And that's a thing that a believer doesn't want to accept, because they want to assert that God is real without any evidence, therefore. Okay, so it's like there's a different weight of evidence for everything, and the evidence for faith-based beliefs is just I try to separate these two when I'm discussing things with especially pre-suppers, because I don't think that they have an idea. So that's the question, Phantom. Like when we make choices, there's a lot of psychology that goes into choice, and it's still a complicated issue. Okay, this is one thing. Yeah, so I think it can. I think this is a very theist definition about what science is. It's not just observation and experimentation. There's a lot, and it at least has those two things going for it that faith does not. You can't observe faith-based claims, nor can you experiment on them. So that's still, even if I accept your definition, which I don't think it's completely accurate, it's still a step above any faith-based belief. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Okay, you can do it that way. I just choose to do a different tactic, Phantom, by not giving into that notion. Like I don't let them corner me into the idea that my beliefs are the same as theirs. I mean, it sounds like that you and I just have different tactics on how to deal with the same problem. So, yeah, it could be. I mean, determined by what? Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily imply intention. I disagree that I'm just a biological robot. That's a theist definition of what human beings are. We are far more than just biological robots. Okay, that biology and that robotic. I mean, technically, I suppose it's true, but no. Um, that the material realm has some of its own questions still. Like science, there are scientists that debate the idea that somehow atheists have to be hard determinists is just not true. Okay, that's something that presuppositionalist apologetics has come up with to criticize atheism with, but not all atheists are hard determinists. Hard determinism is a completely different question. And I would also remind you that there are people in your camp that believe because of the sovereign will of God, free will doesn't exist either. Okay, if God is truly sovereign, then he controls all actions. And so therefore you fall into the same trap. This is not once again, this is not an atheist, versus Christian topic. Hard determinism is in almost every camp I know of. So, and even if we are biological robots, so what? That's pretty amazing to me in a lot of ways. So, but I don't really feel it's that way. I mean, if I'm a robot, who programmed me? Okay, you know, I mean, yeah. To me, it's like it's how our brains work. And that's fine. But whether all that's determined or not, that's a debatable point even among scientists. I think there are some scientists that even have taken on the question of whether we're all determined either. Yeah, I mean, that's the point that a Calvinist would make. They would say that you're just a spiritual robot. Okay, you're just programmed to do what your deity has programmed you to do. So, that's not a problem simply for the atheists. It's a problem for theists too. So, don't know. If you're hallucinating, that's not something I can necessarily answer. I'm not an expert in those fields. So, I would say that a person hallucinating is not getting the proper data that, say, if they weren't hallucinating, they would make different decisions. It's possible, but I don't know if it has any bearing on free will. Okay, free will is a human discussion in a lot of ways, but I even as an open theist, I realize that free will, even libertarian free will, has its limits. Okay, if you believe it. So you set up what would falsify a claim. Like if I say X leads to B, but then I say, well, if it doesn't lead to B, then my initial hypothesis is incorrect. The scientific method does this all the time. Okay, they set up standards of falsifiability because if certain things are true, then there should have certain predictive ends. If we don't get to those predictive ends, then what we think about that thing is falsified. Okay, but when you sit there and say there is a God, how do I falsify that claim? Okay, like how do you, or any claim like that, like if you say Jesus saves, even, how do you falsify that claim? See, that's more of a problem for faith-based people than me, okay? Because if I say a certain, if lightning strikes a certain material, it causes this effect. If I actually have lightning strike that material and it doesn't cause that effect, then that's falsified. I can actually do that with science. I cannot do that with faith. Yeah, precept armor. Yeah, there's a lot of that tonight. And if I was still a theist, I would call it lazy and dishonest. But now I just call it precept nonsense. So, yeah. What are you looking at? Some wonderful art piece, Little Gremlin by I Killed Earl, illustrating fangs in a certain moment in his life. And I do believe Earl told me this is kind of in honor of Pride Month. So I haven't spoken much on Pride Month this year. But I did want to get everybody clear about fangs as gender and sexual orientation. It's whatever you are. That way, he can develop a better empathy with and nibble on your heart better. Just for the record, fangs is my made-up deity to illustrate how easy it is to make up a religion and how easy it is to make up claims that can't be falsified. So I just made a bunch of claims about fangs that can't be falsified. And so they're not actually that good of claims, but doesn't matter. We love fangs. He's cute. Or she. Whatever way you want to identify fangs, that's the way it is. That would be a great bumper sticker. Yeah, most religions are unfalsifiable, which means they can't be proven true, or falsifiability is a good concept for a lot of you theists to go look at and take a deep dive on and why it's important. Call that lunch. He did lie a lot. The whole prediction that people wouldn't be dead when he came back again, that kind of didn't go well. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it could be an emergent property of brains. That's why I leave it open. I'm a soft determinist for that reason. Like, it is quite possible that we develop the property to make genuine choices because it's a survival trait. I just don't know of any research that has proven one way or the other that's true. Maybe somebody can send me something if they feel it's that way. Possible information that could clearly prove it. Yeah, that's true. But usually falsifiability does a lot of things for us because it allows us to test for something that is true. Like if we figure out what would falsify our claim, then we can also figure out what would promote our claim to truth, because then we can research along those lines. Falsifiability is a really good tool, but it's not the only one that science has. That's for damn sure. Yeah, I mean, you do you. I don't think it really changes much as far as how we interact with each other. We all have our reasons that we have to interact with each other and things like that. So wow, John, you're like you and Ronald today. It's like no patience for this stuff today at all, do you? Requires a subject to perform an act of determining, maybe fail, annoyingly hearing the rigid definitions of words. That's possible. Not required in that context. I got the joke. There's something that's unavoidable. Yeah, I can get that. I Dr. Beekman's deranged experiment. I can buy that. Hey, Evan. Oh, good for you, man. Congratulations. Yeah, there you go. See, I am a published author, but the only thing I got published was a letter I wrote to an editor. So, yeah, you're being super cheeky about the whole thing. Yeah, I kind of figured. I'm kind of cheeky about it too after a couple years of trying to be supportive and be an ally and being yelled at for it. So I kind of leave it alone for the most part anymore. But yeah, I've had my bad experiences um, trying to be an ally of the LGBT community and then told to go mind my own business. So, so it's kind of one of those weird things where it's like, okay, was determinist, then we could be determined to perceive that we have free will when we don't. So it would be unfalsifiable. There you go. Thanks, Bridge. There you go. It's unfalsifiable whether we have free will or not, because we could be determined to think that we have free will. And so you can't do that. Give me a falsifiable claim. All right. Yeah. Okay. Here's a good one. Let's say somebody makes the claim that aliens don't exist. Is that a falsifiable claim? I mean, because at that point, it is completely falsifiable if an alien shows up. It is a falsifiable claim. Okay, there's probably more falsifiable claims than there are unfalsifiable ones. Why do I think there's a revival in the Church of England? Is there a revival going on in the Church of England? I don't know. I mean, the English have kind of gone down their path these days because they broke from the EU, and it's like they're trying to preserve their English culture. I guess that's okay. No, a lot of most claims are falsifiable. Falsifiable claim. I have 1034 in my pocket. Yeah, I mean, you can't. Yeah, compatibilism. uh, 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 uh. ran away from home at 13, ended up in trouble with the law of death. How would you, such a character, be judged today? Yeah, I mean, if you can prove something to be false, it's a falsifiable claim. So there's a lot of claims that would fall under that. Like if I say aliens don't exist, if an alien shows up, then that falsifies the claim. There's a standard of falsifiability. Scientists use this all the time to say, okay, if we think X is going to lead to Y, and then something comes along and says, no, that doesn't happen even once, then that's a falsified claim. So, yeah, probably. Yeah, this comet doesn't exist is a falsifiable claim because I can just say there, but it does exist. So, therefore, that claim is false. Okay, so the claim has been falsified. Okay, now you're getting a little ridiculous. Okay, because if I go back to this one, this is the claim: the comment doesn't exist. It's a good one, an example of falsifiability. If I can demonstrate that the comment exists, then that's a false claim. Okay, so it's been falsified. Okay, so it's yeah, I know it says exit, but he meant exist. But what do you mean? See, now you're playing Jordan Peterson games with me, and that's just nonsensical to me. Okay, because yeah, no comments exit. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of. I mean, what do you mean by exists? Okay, when it comes to your God. Okay, if you believe in God, what do you mean by God exists? See, because if you're going to sit there and play that game with me, I get to play that game with you. Okay, you know, like, what do you mean exist? Okay, I don't know. What do you mean by it? Okay, give me a definition of existence. I thank you, Triple E. I'm no expert on everything. I've been around the block with Bible theology and politics, so it's kind of my jam. And my actual interest is social psychology, so how people reach decisions together. It's probably more my thing in political science, but and I've spent a lot of time as a pastor. So if you want to ask something about the ministry and church, I'm right there. So, uh, to seem to align rival in the U.S. Never much in the UK. Can never understand why suddenly some people want to join the faith at once. Um, I don't know. I think from a social psychology point of view, Alex, people like to belong to things. It's one of the advantages that religion has is people like to belong to a religion because they have a sense of belonging. Um, I think there's a lot of psychological reasons and emotional reasons people cling to faith and go to faith and religion, and it's just one of them. They like to be a part of it, and there's a herd mentality that human beings still have because we are a social species and we want to go along with the crowd so we can be a part of that crowd because we crave social interaction. So we end up heading down that route. And so revivals, I think, if you put them in the context of a group of people wants to have a sense of belonging or wants to join something that gives them that sense of belonging, yeah, religion is a pretty good one to do that with. So, yeah, I guess I'm kind of windmill. I'm kind of with you. Like I hear claims of revival all the time, and I used to hear them when I was a Pentecostal all the time. We got this revival going on in this church and that church and everywhere, and people are falling under the power of the Spirit and speaking in tongues and all that crap. And you'd go to investigate it and find out it was like one service. They had a few ecstatic experiences, and now it's a revival. That word revival is thrown out so much. I would agree with you that I would want more proof of that than, yeah, we're now into the solipsism of a Jordan Peterson. Yeah, I agree there. I just don't have a time. Or it demonstrates it is true. It's not just a question of could be. I mean, you're adding an element of doubt there. And a lot of scientific theory, like scientific theories, have very little doubt to them. Okay, until somebody comes off. Yeah, I mean, do you have a comment? Does your comment right now currently exist? It's okay, Michael. I get it. Uh, sure, but I think we would probably do more than just see the alien. Okay, at that point, you're still okay. The point is, you were talking about falsifiability. Okay, I don't need whether I see an alien today. The issue is if somebody makes a claim aliens don't exist, then the standard of falsifiability is if an alien shows up and could be proven to exist, that would falsify that initial claim of aliens don't exist. You can do that in science with a lot of things. But the idea that all claims are unfalsifiable, that's just nonsense. Okay, it's just nonsense. So evidence is things that prove things. Yes. Yeah, I mean, and the burden of proof still remains on you theists. Prove to me that God exists. Give me evidence that your God exists, because otherwise I think I can go about my merry way believing in them as much as I believe in, spaghetti monsters and Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe, or even as I illustrate with fangs, I can believe in fangs with just as much unfalsifiability as you have. So, it's like I use fangs to illustrate that point all the time. Like if I've chosen to believe something, I could do that. And fangs is cuter than your gods anyway. So Yahweh's an ass. So, yeah, we're evolved to have a tribal nature, and I think revivals have a lot to do with tribalism. Like I know as a Pentecostal, I used to brag about revivals because they made me more Christian than the other Christians. Okay, that debate was very heavy. So, yeah. Yeah, solipsism is kind of a no-no around here. I know my mods don't like it. That's for damn sure. So, oh man, I think there's a lot of emotional attachment to afterlife beliefs, and we have a fear of death. I think Christopher Hitchens was right on that part. That as long as we have a fear of death, religion will exist, and as long as we want to see, rectify mistakes with people that have died, we're going to have religion. Afterlife beliefs is what keep religion alive. Like you're going to survive this life in some other life, and there's no evidence of that whatsoever. Like it's funny to me when people want to defend doctrines of heaven and hell. It's like you haven't even proven heaven and hell exist. You've just asserted it. Okay, so yeah. I don't know, Alex. I mean, honestly, I guess I would want more information about whether a revival are people actually joining the Church of England and sticking around, or is it just a moment? Because a lot of revivals are just moments. I remember, I don't know if I have any Canadians, but like the Toronto revivals were big back in the 90s and early, back in the day when I was younger. But they ended. Eventually they ended. And what do you mean by revival is probably a good question too. Yeah, I engage a lot of people because I used to be those people, but I'm going to tell you this. For those of you that are theists, that are presuppositionalists and are still in the room, understand this. If I was still a theist, I would be decrying you as a Christian as being A, dishonest, because you're making claims about your faith that you should prove. And I would claim that you're cowardly and dishonorable. Okay. And I would say that as a Christian. Okay. Because as a Christian, I hated pre-suppers too, because it was like, dude, you are you are running away from your honor-bound responsibility to give a reason for the hope that is within you. You're just running away from it. And yeah, I had solipsism just, yeah, my mods don't like it. I think actually Earl breaks out in hives when that happens. And so she gets uncomfortable, so banned. So timeout. Yeah. Can't put numbers to it. Yeah, I used to make the joke that Yahweh mooned Moses, so because he's kind of that kind of asshole. Uh, yes, it's not just considered fiction; it's pretty much confirmed fiction. Like there is no evidence whatsoever that Moses even existed outside the Bible talking about him. And given that was written in about 600 BC, probably a conglomerate made up character. So, yeah, I mean, it's a reasonable desire that, I mean, I can see where a survival instinct in human beings continues to want us to survive even death. And so I get it. I get why it exists, but there's just no evidence for an afterlife. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I I don't know if you remember the Toronto revivals, but when I was in my 20s and sure everybody was talking about them, I think they kind of died out of natural causes. So, okay, you're allergic to so idiocy. Okay. So, those of you be aware, Earl will probably ban your ass if you go into sophistry. I really hate the Jordan Peterson thing where they just, what do you mean by this? And what do you mean by that? I don't know. Let's use common definitions. Let's go to the dictionary. Okay, there's our definition. Do you have anything? Okay. But yeah, Bernie Ash, yes. It is really good. I love I love what Earl does. I have some other examples of her artwork, and I actually have a few that I keep around because I enjoy it. But like, I don't know if all of you have seen some of the other ones that she has done. I think they only appeared in like one stream, so maybe it's time to reintroduce some of them. But there's this one. This is one of my favorites now. The Earth asking for help. Help. And there's Fangs holding the world in his hands. But yeah, it's like but yeah, it she does good work. I know the next two I'm going to show you are AI, but it was her that introduced the concepts. Like I call this one the unholy trinity. Me, Earl, and Fangs. So there's that. And then she did this one too with AI, but I kind of like it. There's a lot here, but I've always loved Earl's artwork, her concepts and things that she does. I just enjoy it. But yeah, this is. I mean, I love this one, but this has become my favorite for a while now. I mean, even though it's AI ish, it's definitely got AI stuff, but I like the concepts here. The unholy trinity is a good one. So. Yeah, I kind of with you there, Earl. The moment they start asking me for definitions of words, it's like you're playing a game now. You're just playing a game. You've lost the argument. You don't know what to say, so you're just going to start. We're going to have to redefine words so they don't mean what they mean or whatever. And then at that point, I'm kind of done. So, yeah, he does that. If you look up Jordan Peterson versus 20 Atheists, he does that all the way through, where he changes the discussion or falls back on his word games, or Gosh, one of them I heard somebody did a reaction to. I'm like, that he literally said nothing. Okay, he literally said nothing, but it sounded good. But yeah, Jordan Peterson is the king of the deepity. You know, he'll give you a deepity and think it ends the discussion. Yeah. Yes, they scoff at reincarnation, and then Christian claim to believe in karma. Yeah, there's a lot of see, that's the thing about the Christian belief, Katie, because you have this, you know, you'll reap what you sow inside of Christianity, which is a very karma thought. Okay. But it's very much linked to reincarnation. But Christians don't really believe in reincarnation, they believe in heaven and hell. So, oh, you remember it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. He was, holy shit. I didn't go to any of the Toronto revivals. In Grand Rapids, at Grand Rapids First Assembly, there was a big revival, and I went once and then I never went again, because it was like the guy who was the preacher there was just, he turned me off because he just like was holier than thou with his attitude. And I really felt like the whole thing was like a con. So, so there's that. But yeah. Yeah, see, I love Earl's artwork. I really do. Like, I still find this one hilarious. Fangs is so cute. He is cute. We have a cute deity. We have an absolute cute deity around here that we made up. Yeah. Yeah, he does that a lot. Because he'll get cornered, and where somebody will ask him a good question or make a good point, and then he'll take one of the words they use and try to what do you mean by that? And I think here's the funny part, because in that debate he got cornered as to whether he was a Christian, and I never said I was a Christian. And then the guy that responded to him, well, basically, Jordan called him a smartass, and the kid responded, "Well, you're kind of a nothing because you say all this crap, but you never define what you actually believe. It's like you're being evasive." So, so there's that. Fuzzy Atlas fangs. you know, I am glad we came up with this concept. I think Fangs has so much potential as a deity and as a religion and as a cult. And to top it off, he's cute and fuzzy. So, yeah, what are standards for that? Yes, yes, yes. Take all your curtsies and your head pats. Earl, you did a fine job. I'm absolutely thrilled with your stuff. He's pretty good at doing that, yeah. Saying a lot of words that say absolutely nothing. Yeah, I have to agree with you, Michael. Excuses is to constantly redefine scripture to align it with reality. Like they will, like the whole sphere of the earth statement. Well, that shows that they believed in a round earth way back then. It's like, not if I read Genesis 1 and 2. It doesn't work that way. So it really can't, but they try to make it fit. Like Jesus says, you'll reap what you sow. I mean, there's several, it's either him or Paul or somebody that the New Testament definitely has this idea of you're going to get what you deserve, kind of thing. So it's kind of a perverted view of karma, but it's there. Yeah, I mean, but there's a difference between that when there's like a confusion, actual confusion on a definition, and when you start talking about like something like we just did with falsifiability, and the claim that aliens don't exist, okay, is falsified if we actually prove that there's an alien that exists. That's all we're trying to illustrate with that. But then we're gonna go into what does it mean by exist? And I'm like, okay, why don't you give me your definition of existence and I'll see if it jives with mine. you shouldn't be asking that question. You should be defining existence for me so I can have a discussion. And there's a great deal of difference between like defining terms that there isn't a common agreement about, and then other terms that, we have common agreement about. Oh, wow. Has anybody done a wellness check on some more news? I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do that. Oh. I would recommend it. I think you're going to find a pattern with revivals, and that is there's usually some sort of emotional, supposed supernatural event associated with a revival, like the Azusa Street revival that became the basis for the Assemblies of God and a lot of other Pentecostal denominations. Supposedly had people speaking in tongues and all this other stuff, and it was that miracle that drew people to it, quote unquote miracle. But then later on, you develop a movement, and then a movement becomes into something else, or the revival just fades away and nobody notices. So yes, he went to Russia for a very questionable treatment, and he hasn't been the same. He's been worse. You still like the Mormonians one? Oh, you know what? Fair enough. All right, let's bring back the Mormonians. Oh, where are you? Ah, there it is. Oh, wait, I went too far down. There we go. The Mormonians. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we have pictures of fangs to prove that he exists. So that's more than we have of Yahweh. so Sanskrit word, you reap your rewards, good or bad in the next life, not this life. Come back as a rich person or a beggar. Yeah, I get it, Katie. But there are certain religious ideas that seem to cross religions, and karma seems to be one of those. I don't know if Christians call it karma, but they would say you reap what you sow, in the sense that if you go to hell, you earned it. If you go to heaven, you earned it, which is really weird for Protestants who believe in grace alone. So it gets really convoluted there. So there's that. I would keep him on, call him George. Oh. Oh. Fangs are Hare Krishna. Okay, fair enough. Hail Fangs, adorable and fuzzy. Hail Fangs. I don't know, Anne-Marie. I've literally debated with this, because I know a couple religions do exist that have that. Like Pastafarianism actually has a 501c3. I believe Dudism has that same thing, and you can actually become a priest of the Church of Dude and do wedding ceremonies. So it's interesting, because I'm going to have to see what the form is to fill it out for a religion, because I think it would be hilarious just to fill it out whether I submit it or not, and show you how easy it is to get tax exempt status for your organization. I am listed, this YouTube channel is like nonprofit activism, so I technically qualify already, but yeah. People who invented Noah at least knew someone that knew that the earth wasn't flat, probably. Definitions are God's definition. Yeah, they do that a lot too. Well, I don't agree with the definition. Well, I don't agree with yours because it's not standard. So, okay. Yeah, all right. I was going to say, because anybody who can sit down with Jordan Peterson's stuff or for that length of time, or do Gary Habermas's books, they're doing the Lord's work. Forget the pun, but they should be held up. Yes, she is. Earl is the humble lap from which our Lord naps. Yes. Oh, the fact that I created a cult just amazes me. But it illustrates so many things. Like, I had a guy give me, like, you know what typology is? And I'm like, yeah, I use it every day with fangs. Like, everything rabbit related is a foreshadowing type of fangs. So it's like, Easter, the Playboy bunny, all of it, chocolate rabbits, everything is a foreshadowing of fangs. So existence is something that I'm forced to consider when you wake up in the morning. There you go. That's as good a definition as any, I guess. Oh. Oh my gosh. There's another person doing the Lord's work. The Lord fangs his work. Oh my goodness. Oh, I like the day. Go. Yeah, he's when we did this one, I wanted, because it's like we were doing Mormonism, and I said, well, if we're going to do it right, we have to have a single male adult and several females and lots of babies. And Earl took that to heart, and this is what we got, and this is beautiful. This is just gorgeous. Yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah, yes. But yeah, dudism is like a real religion. There's a bunch of people that have made religions out of nothing. I'm going to look into it. How do I apply for a 501, C3? Because I think Fangsology could qualify. So yeah, I think the problem that we have most of the time with theists is they don't retreat to what do you mean by until they're starting to lose an argument. If they came out with a standard definition right away, like, can we use this definition of belief or whatever? And I would say, well, I would tweak it this way and that way, but that's not what they do. Most of the time, what happens is a very dishonest tactic where they get cornered on what we're actually talking about. So they want to distract the conversation to something else. Like, go back and watch it, because it was a good example of I'm saying, okay, here's a falsifiable claim. Aliens don't exist. If an alien shows up and then all of a sudden he wants to talk about existence, it's like, dude, I just demonstrated what we're talking about here. Okay. After that, you've now pushed us off topic. Okay. So yeah, I mean, bad definition. I would agree with that. Good definition, I heard of good philosophy. Bad definition, I heard of good bullshit. Yeah, that's good. In karma all the time, if you try to correct them, they will say, that's not how I meant it. Exactly. A rabbit home. Oh. John Oliver prayed for teeth, and then he is really boring at times, and I think this last encounter with the 20 atheists really hurt his credibility, because the first guy that interacted with him, who I'm now following because he has his own YouTube channel as well, he did a really good job of keeping Jordan on task, and you could tell Jordan Peterson was very uncomfortable with it. But the guy that also said you're a big nothing was also accurate, because Jordan Peterson has long dodged the question, are you a Christian or not? He won't say he is or won't. And if I was still a fundy, I would say, well, then he's not, because nobody who's a genuine Christian would be ashamed of calling Christ their Lord. But if Jordan Peterson goes down that route, he loses a lot of people's support either way. So he keeps it vague on purpose. So, and that's when the guy you're a lot of nothing. It's like, he's accurate there. You're just air. So, yeah, I listened to it. I couldn't watch it. It's my largest problem with Jordan Peterson is I recognized him as a fraud a long time ago, even before I became an atheist. So it's like, yeah, God, what a hack. Sowing wild onions, yes. I'm not sure they're wild. I mean, technically Mormons are married to all their wives, so is it wild fruit or vegetables? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm kind of going that route too, Fred. If I am the Messiah of Fangs, then B.S. Lewis is John the Baptist because he started the whole thing. He was the final foreshadowing of Fangs came through B.S. Lewis. So it was there. So it's like um, so yeah, I would agree with you, Fred. That could be canon doctrine. I'll have to make a decision, but yes. Uh, Yeah, they are. Yeah, there's two standard definitions. The problem with the belief is if you're going to talk to me about belief, please define what you mean by that before we start, not afterwards when you're losing the argument. Okay, I'm good with defining terms ahead of where we're starting. They are hilarious. That's why they're emojis for members. Romeo. Oh. Fangsolatry, the cult of Fangs, files for 501c3 status. I want to see what happens there. I'd have to know how much money that would require. Yeah, he is kind of. Turek is just as bad. Um, Jesus actually himself, I believe, says he just as Jonah, he makes that claim. Um, hold on. I want to make sure I'm accurate. Let's see. Jesus talks about Noah. Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the stomach of big, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the grave also. It's a prediction of Jesus Christ himself that he would also be 3 nights in the grave. So, unless you're going to say Jesus was once again a false prophet, you have to have 3 nights. It's why Good Friday really shouldn't be the day of Jesus's death anyway. So I argued that as a theist, like he was probably crucified actually on Thursday. If I do the predictive timeline like Jesus said, yeah, it's Jesus's own claim that he would be 3 nights in the belly of the earth. So, you have to deal with that. And then you have the contradiction of being crucified on Friday and raised on Sunday where there's only 2 nights. So was Jesus wrong and made a false prophecy, or was he actually crucified a day earlier? So I'm okay. You guys have fun. Be careful. Use safe debate tactics. Yes, I did. I didn't like him when I was a theist. That going that far back, I always felt that he was evasive. So, like, are you a Christian or not, bro? It's a simple question to answer. And I think one of the debaters cornered him on that, and he was still evasive about it. I think it was the same guy who called him a nothing. So, to a fork and call that God. Yeah, I get what you're saying, Evan. But yeah. Yeah, Jesus literally says that as host. So it's like, I don't know how they get around it because it's JC. Okay. So either JC was wrong. Okay. And he has another false prophecy right up there with none of you will taste of death, or he he was not crucified on the day that every Christian thinks he was. So one or the other. I suppose it also is all made up. That's a possibility. So there's that. But yes, that they're trying to avoid the problem of Jesus's own words. And well, they 3 days, but that doesn't discount the 3 nights thing either. It says whale. Oh. Do they teach the voice inflection at seminary? I don't know. I picked it up from being a Pentecostal. I think it's one of those things that preachers just pick up. See, I don't try to use that kind of voice anymore because it hurts my throat. It's one of the physical things I'm dealing with for many years of being a Pentecostal preacher is the fact that my vocal cords. That's why I sound gravelly, is because I've kind of strained my vocal cords a little bit from being a preacher all those years. So it's finally catching up with me. So, but yeah, say yes. I can do all kinds of stuff. I used to have fun with that. Oh man. Oh yeah, actual onion skin is clear, so we had to do other things. So I mean that would show a lot, probably more than just nipples. So spiritual death, there it doesn't say spiritual death as so it doesn't say that at all. It says actual death and in the dirt. Uh, heart of the earth. It's very clear. There's no room for wiggle room on that one. So thanks. So they parted it from the sand and called it lubricant. And there was right, and then there was running. Oh, that's great, Rimmer. All right. Well, I've hit my hour and a half mark, and unfortunately, I have to leave. But I did want to put this back up here. This is the latest from I Killed Earl, the lovely Earl. So, yes. So there's that. Yeah, I'm trying to, at some point, I've got to start collecting the collected Fangsology lore. So there's that, but that's going to happen. But yeah, this is the latest. I I don't know. They get pregnant in a different way. But yeah, but thanks everybody for stopping by. I appreciate all of you. This has been another edition of Rabyd Fire by the Rabyd Atheist. Thanks everybody. May Fangs bless you, and may he constantly nibble on your heart. Remember to cozy up to him on a regular basis. He nibbled for our sins, and so make sure you experience that on a daily basis, and you will be fine. So there's all of that. So may Fangs nibble at your hearts and all things, and nom nom and all that, and hopefully we'll get some more crooked doctrine of Fangs. And yes, please remember to consensually smash the like button, but the like button is very consensual. So thank you very much for doing that. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So make sure you're taking all your time, money, and opportunities and spending them on yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And don't waste them on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. So I speak from experience. And as always, folks, I want to thank you for stopping by, and I will see you all next time on Thursday on Deconversion Hangout.